Hi, so I'm going to be doing some screen repair here. So let me go ahead and show you the equipment that you'll need. So you'll need some tape. So this will be putting the frame in place. You'll tape the frame to the floor. You could use masking tape or packaging tape. In this case, I am actually doing this in my living room, so it will be packaging tape. You'll need one of these rollers, and these are $3. So don't save on this. Don't try to think that you could use a screwdriver or something. It'll just take too long. Just spend the $3, get this, and do it properly. You will need a very thin, small screwdriver. One that's able to fit into the slots right here, and pluck out the old spline. And you may or may not need new spline. I tend to reuse the old spline. And you'll need a utility knife to cut it. Now, I have an actual weight here, and the reason why I have the weight is when I am laying the new aluminum or the new screen right on top, I want to weigh it down with something in the center that gives the right amount of tautness and looseness on the new screen. So you don't need a weight, just get something heavy to put on the center while you're doing it, and I'll show you that. The other thing you'll need is the screen itself. So here, I actually got the fiberglass, and this is the Clear Advantage. This whole roll is 48 inches by 84 inches, and it was about $10. So it comes in two flavors, aluminum or fiberglass. Because you're a beginner, I would recommend that you use fiberglass. It is easier to work with, even though the aluminum is supposed to be stronger. This here is more flexible. It's a lot easier to deal with while you're doing the installation. It's a lot more flexible to deal with, and it's a lot easier to cut with the utility knife on those fine edges that you have to cut it with. So if you're a beginner, simply use the fiberglass. That is my recommendation. So a quick tip on how to use this tool. So it comes with a concave end which sinks in, and a convex end that sinks out. So normally when I try to stuff the spline in, I'll use the convex, the part that sticks out, and I'll roll it. But in reality, what you do is it's situational. You try to interchange them, and most of the time I'll use the part that's rounded out, the convex part, and I'll try to stuff it in a little bit more because it has the less sharper edge that doesn't inadvertently cut the screen. So, you know, it's really kind of situational. More or less, you kind of use the convex portion more, and for finishing, pushing it in a little bit more, you'll use the concave part. So you're going to examine the edges here and look for the opening where the last person ended and started the spline. And so what I'm going to do is simply dig this in and start pulling it out. And you could see it just comes out like that. So it just comes out like that. And now I could just start pulling it out. I can simply just pull this whole thing out. So what I ended up doing is not reusing this spline. And the reason why is this spline is very plasticky and it's not very flexible. So in these cases, you don't want to reuse this plasticky spline. And what I mean by that is, here is the new spline I have. And you could see here at this angle, it's already at a triangular angle and it's very stiff. So you can't reshape this. Whereas for these newer splines, it is round, and also it is rubbery and flexible. So I should have examined the spline a little bit more. Now that I have this replacement spline, which is about $4 for 25 feet, I will be using this rubber spline here, and it will be a lot easier to work with. So I got the spline out, and now I'm just going to pop out the screen. Now, another tip here is you may not want to throw this away. So if it's aluminum, what I often do is I save it and I use it to plug mice holes in the basement. So I would scrunch up a lot of aluminum, and I will plug up holes or areas of entry for mice. Now the next step here is I'm going to start taping the edges. So you notice I taped this down, and there's not much wiggle room here. So you can see it doesn't move. So see what I've done there is put a bucket there where the tail end is to keep that piece stable. Now I do want to roll this out so that the roll is still attached. And what that ends up doing is it has less wrinkles. So if I actually cut it, so for example, if I actually cut this down to size 1 inch, 1 extra inch on each side, and had that rectangle, it would move too much. Whereas here, if I pin that bucket to the end, I put the weight in the middle and I pin another weight onto this other end. Now this thing is pretty stable, and I could start putting the spline in there without the screen moving. So you don't want to cut the rectangle and then try to fit in the spline. You just want to keep the roll there. You know, don't cut anything yet. So you see from the top view here, I put a weight in specific points so that the screen doesn't move, and this will reduce the wrinkles in your final installation. So you don't want a screen that is wrinkly and uneven all over the place, but you want the a certain amount of tautness in the screen itself. So this is what achieves that. So there is a good starting point to put the spline. You want to start it a little bit before the corner, and the reason why is as I work my way around the screen here, the first side won't matter as much. I could stuff the spline in, and you know, as long as the screen is a little bit more or less aligned. But as I go to the opposite side, I will start stretching it a little bit, removing this weight, and make it a little bit more taut. So these first two sides doesn't quite matter as much, but when I start working my way around closing the screen and pulling the tautness on the opposite sides, that's when I should really concentrate a little bit more. So I'm going to start stuffing the spline in using the convex, the part that's pointing out, you know, just stuffing it in, rolling it slowly as I go along. And you notice right now I am not all that worried about the tautness, you know, trying to stuff it in as best I can, working my way around, you know, even using my fingers initially like this to stretch it out, you know, putting pressure here. Push the spline in before you use the convex piece. So the concave is the thing that curves out, whereas the concave is what curves in. So I am just doubling back. So now that I've done the initial corner, now is when I want to have a tautness. So you see there's a bump here. So I am going to stretch this out and put my foot on it, you know, just to keep it taut. And I've removed the weight in the middle because I've done the first corner. And this is why you want the full screen, is because you want to be able to have something that you could pull. So you want to do this really slowly on these last two sides. You know, you want to do it right, you don't want to do it fast. So you could see a close-up zoom look, and you'll notice there are bumps here. But as I use my fingers and I apply some pressure and I pull tight the screen, now you do want a little give here. There is a little give here. Now this is why I prefer to do this in my kitchen or living room, because I'm actually lying down very comfortably with an eagle eye you know, perspective on the spline itself, and I am simply pulling it taut and pushing this through, as you can see, with the concave, I mean the convex side, the side that rounds out and not in. And you could see, you know, simply, you know, using my fingers, I keep on using my fingers, applying that pressure and pushing it in, going slowly. really slow. You know, really, really slow. So you want to push that initial spline in, but you're going to double back anyway. So at this point, you're really trying to keep out the wrinkles. That's what you're trying to do at this point. That is your focus right now. And you can see that zooming in, there's basically no wrinkles along any edge, and that's the middle there. And I'm just gonna complete the other sides. So now I'm almost at the end. I just have to cut the spline. Now what I'm gonna do is remove the weights and use the scissors and trim the sides, and then use the utility knife to cut along and score the edges. So don't be careless at this point. Be very careful where you point your knife. And right now I am just scoring it, medium pressure, and just check that it is dislodged. So you don't have to apply too much pressure. You see how I have the knife angled? And that's really it. You just remove the excess. So there you go. That is a wrinkle-free perfect screen. And I hope this helps, and please subscribe and support this channel. Check out the links with all the equipment in the description area, and I hope this helps, and thank you for watching.